Very good morning to all my dear students. Today again we'll be continuing the explanation of the science lesson number 8, windstorm and cyclones. So everybody will open your textbooks on page number 84. Today we are going to start a new topic, that is 8.4, that is wind currents are generated due to uneven heating on the earth. Now, how are the wind currents generated on the earth? That is because of the uneven heating of the earth. That means at certain places the earth is hot, at certain places it is a little bit hot, at certain places it is cold. That means the entire earth is not heated evenly throughout the at the same times. Somewhere it is hot and somewhere it is cold. Now these situations are: first one, an uneven heating between the equators and the poles. The first topic that we are going to first point about the uneven heating is between the equators and the poles. Now, dear children, you might have read in the geography about the equator, which is an imaginary line which passes through the center of the earth, and we can say that it divides the earth into two equal halves. You might have learned in geography that the regions close to the equator gets the maximum heat from the sun. The air in this region gets warm. The warm air rises and the cooler air from the regions in 0 to 30 degrees of latitude belt on the either side of the equator moves in. Now, as I told you that in geography we have studied about the earth and the latitudes and the longitudes and the equator. The places which is very close to the equator, on the either side of the equator, the places which are very close to it gets the maximum heat of the sun, because the sun rays fall directly on the equator. It is said like that the sun rays falls directly on the equator, so that places are quite warm. So that is and as we move away from the equator on both the sides, the warmth of the sun gets less and less, and as we reach towards the pole, it becomes cold, and the poles are considered to be the places where you have the extreme cold conditions. So the places which are near the equator, there it is hot, so the air in that area becomes hot and rises up. As yesterday I explained you that the hot air is light and it rises up, and the cold air is heavier, which comes from the region of 0 to 30 degrees of latitude belt on the either side of the equator. That means from on both the sides of the equators, the region which falls between 0 to 30 degrees of latitude on the earth, that from that area the cold air moves in towards the equator to take the place of the hot air that is rising up near the equator. The winds blow from north and south towards the equator. Now here the winds from both the sides of the equator, as I said, that means from the north side of the equator and the southern hemisphere of the equator, from both the sides of the equator the wind moves towards the equator, because the winds at the north side and at the south side are very cold, so the cold air from that side moves towards the hotter place, that is the equator. At the poles the air is colder than that at the latitudes about 60 degrees. So it is quite cold in the equator polar regions. Then it is also colder, or the air is quite colder compared to the regions which lies between the 60 degrees of latitudes. The warm air at the latitudes rises up, and the cold air from the polar region rushes in to take its place. Now in these latitudes, as the air gets warmer, it rises up, and the cold air from the pole moves towards the hotter place. In this way, the circulation of wind is set up from the poles to the warmer latitudes, as shown in the figure 8.8. Now, in this figure, you can see the movement of the air is shown. That movement from these are the polar regions. This is your North Pole and this is your South Pole. Now, here in between is your equator, the center of the earth. It is divided from the center. It is an imaginary line which divides the earth into two equal halves. Now, from this region, the cold air starts moving towards this hotter region. यहाँ से ठंडी हवा जो है पोल से जो है वो इक्वेटर की तरफ, दोनों से, नॉर्थ पोल से और साउथ पोल से, दोनों से वो इक्वेटर की तरफ मूव करती है, और जो गर्म हवा होती है, लाइट होती है, जो ऊपर की तरफ चली जाती है, उसकी जगह लेने के लिए कोल्ड एयर तुरंत आ जाती है, और इस तरीके से जो सर्कुलेशन है एयर का, इट टेक्स प्लेस. The wind would have flown in the north-south direction from north to south or from south to north. A change in direction is however caused by the rotation of the earth. Now here Bujo, I wonder why the winds shown in the figure are not in the exact north-south direction. Now here you can see the wind is not in the north-south direction. इसका exactly north-south direction में wind का flow क्यों नहीं हो रहा है? इसका कारण क्या है कि जो winds would have flown from north to south, या तो हवा कैसे चल सकती है नॉर्थ से साउथ की तरफ या साउथ से नॉर्थ की तरफ एयर मूव कर सकता है, बट जो चेंज होता है एयर के डायरेक्शन में या विंड के डायरेक्शन में जो चेंज होता है, दोज चेंजेस आर ब्रॉट अबाउट बिकॉज ऑफ द रोटेशन ऑफ द अर्थ. एज द अर्थ रोटेट्स द डायरेक्शन ऑफ विंड ऑल्सो कीप्स ऑन चेंजिंग. बिकॉज ऑफ दैट रोटेशन the direction of the wind also changes. Now the second part is the uneven heating of land and water. The first part was uneven heating of the between the equators and the pole. मतलब कि जो air है, the air circulation between the equators and the pole, that is not evenly heated up. Now the second is uneven heating of land and water. With the second point, uneven heating of land and water. You have read about the sea breeze and the land breeze in chapter 4, as I explained, that I've already explained. In summer, near the equator, the land warms faster, and most of the time the temperature of the land is higher than that of the water in the oceans. The air over the land gets heated and rises. This causes wind to flow from the oceans towards the land. These are the monsoon winds. Now, very important point in this is that, see, in summer near the equator the land warms up faster, and most of the time the temperature of the land is higher than that of the water in the ocean. Obviously, during the summer season, as you all know, the sun shines very brightly, and the places which are closer to the equator or on the equator, as the sun rays falls directly, it is very very warm over there, and the water on the oceans and the seas is not that the temperature of the water of the oceans and seas is not that much as compared to the temperature of the land. That means the temperature of land is higher than the temperature of water in the oceans and the seas. Now the air over the land gets heated and rises up. So the reason is that the temperature of the land is more, then the air that is present on the land will get heated up and it starts rising up. Now this causes the wind to flow from the oceans towards the sea. Now what happens, because the temperature of the water of oceans and sea is less, that means the air around that ocean and sea, that the temperature of that air is also less compared to the air on the land. So as the air on the land rises up, the air from the oceans and sea move towards the land. They start taking the place of the air which has created the place for the colder air to move in. These are the monsoon winds. Now these are the winds which bring the monsoon. That means the colder air from the oceans and seas that moves towards the land, these are the winds that bring the monsoon. The word monsoon is derived from the Arabic word mosam, which means season. Now, how is this word monsoon derived? It is derived from the Arabic word which means mosam, और उसको हम मौसम का meaning क्या होता है? Season. In winter, the direction of the wind flows get reversed. It flows from the land to the ocean. Now, in the winter, the reverse of this happens because during the winter season, the sun doesn't shine that much brightly. That means the temperature of the land is not as much high as the temperature during the summer सीजन्स. तो उसके कारण क्या होता है, जो हवा होती है अब लैंड से ओशन की तरफ जाती है. दैट मीन्स द टेम्परेचर ऑफ वाटर इज मोर कंपेयर्ड टू द टेम्परेचर ऑफ लैंड ड्यूरिंग द विंटर सीजन. देन द विंड स्टार्ट फ्लोइंग फ्रॉम लैंड टुवर्ड्स द ओशन or the seas. I want to know what these winds do for us. Now, these winds from the ocean carry water and bring rain. It is a part of the water cycle. Now, these winds from the oceans carry water and bring rain. तो ये जो पानी जो विंड होती है ओशन में से जो आती है वो क्या करती है, सीज में से आती है. ये अपने साथ जो है हवा के साथ साथ पानी भी आता है, मॉइस्चर भी आता है, और वही जो हवा के साथ जो पानी वो कैरी करते हैं उससे बारिश आती है, which is a part of the water cycle. Now, the monsoon winds carry water and it rains. Now, तो जो मानसून विंड्स होती है जो कि लैंड से जो मॉनसून विंड्स कैसी होती है, अभी हमने जस्ट पढ़ा कि मॉनसून विंड्स आर द विंड्स दैट फ्लो फ्रॉम द ओशन टुवर्ड्स द लैंड। जो विंड ओशन से, पानी से जो है, समुद्र से जो लैंड की तरफ चलती है, वो मॉनसून विंड्स होती हैं। और वो अपने साथ जो है, इट कैरीज द वाटर एंड देन इट बिकम्स क्लाउड एंड इट रेन्स। इट Clouds brings rain and gives us happiness. Farmers in our country depend mainly on the rains for their harvest. There are many folk songs associated with clouds and rain. Sing and enjoy with your friends if you know such some songs. Here is one for you. Now clouds, as you all know that ours is an agricultural country. India कैसा है, एक खेती प्रधान देश है। तो यहाँ पर जो फार्मर्स जो खेती करते हैं वो मेनली डिपेंड करते हैं पानी के लिए। एग्रीकल्चर के लिए जो पानी की ज़रूरत होती है खेती के लिए, वो बारिश के ऊपर ही निर्भर करते हैं, डिपेंड करते हैं। तो फार्मर्स आर वेरी हैप्पी बिकॉज if it rains properly, then they will get a good harvest. So many of the folk songs are also associated with this rainy season. So one of the folk songs is given here on the next page, which is your page number 86. Now that we are not going to do. Now here you can see there are two pictures. These pictures are the pictures of uneven heating of land, especially the Rajasthan desert generates monsoon winds from southwest direction in the summer. These winds carry lot of water from the Indian Ocean. जो राजस्थान यानी कि डेजर्ट एरिया पे जो दिखाया गया स्पेशली जो है, ये अनइवन हीटिंग ऑफ लैंड है, स्पेशली इन द डेजर्ट रीजन, इन द राजस्थानी region which generates Rajasthan region which generates the monsoon winds, and these winds flow carry a lot of water from the Indian Ocean. That means from the winds from the Indian Ocean blow towards the Rajasthan, that means in southwest direction in the summer season, and they carry with them a lot of clouds. Now next is the picture. Next picture is of uneven heating of land and water in winter generates winds from the northwest colder region. These colder winds carry little water, hence brings small amount of rain in winter. Now this is the winds that bring the monsoon, that means they bring the rains in the rainy season, and these are the winds that blow during the winter season which brings some amount of rain. As in the northern part of our country during the winter season also it rains, as in the few days, 2 or 3 days ago in Delhi and in the certain regions of UP also has received a lot of rains, and the hilly regions always receives a lot of snowfall and rainfall also both during the winter season. So the winds flow from northwest direction in the winter season and they bring some amount of rain during the winter season also. But first we'll read this. We are not going to recite this for folk song. However, it is not always a happy ending. Rains often create problems. Can you list some of the problems? You can discuss and the causes and the solutions of the problem with your teachers and parents. If nature itself, there are certain situations that can cause sometimes create disasters and pose a threat to human, animals and plant life. Let us study about two such situations. One is the thunderstorm and other is the cyclone. Now, as you all know that when the rain comes, we all welcome the rains, but too much of rain again is not good for us, because when too much of rain is there, it causes lot of problems. Many a times there's a lot of floods are there, and which causes havoc for the property and loss of life, animals and plants, everything. So many things are destroyed during the flood. So if it rains in a limit it is good, but once it starts raining heavily, it is not good for any one of us. So there are certain conditions or climatic conditions happens or situation happens that it starts raining too much. तो वो क्या दो situations हैं, उनमें से एक है thunderstorm और दूसरा है cyclone. Now we are going to study about these two. What is a thunderstorm and what is a cyclone? Now first, this is 8.5, thunderstorm and cyclones. Thunderstorms develop in hot, humid, tropical areas like India very frequently. Now, which are the places which are very prone to the thunderstorms are the hot and the humid tropical areas like India. हमारा इंडिया का टेम्परेचर कैसा है, हॉट और ह्यूमिड है, गर्मी भी है और बारिश भी होती है, मतलब कि मॉइस्चर भी होता है, ह्यूमिड जो भी होता है, और ऐसे प्लेसेस में जो है थंडरस्टॉर्म्स काफ़ी फ्रीक्वेंट होते हैं, मतलब रेगुलरली दे कम. द राइजिंग टेम्परेचर प्रोड्यूस स्ट्रॉन्ग अपवर्ड राइजिंग winds. These winds carry water droplets upwards when they freeze and fall down again. So जब टेम्परेचर बहुत ज़्यादा हाई हो जाता है, the rising temperature produces the strong upward winds. As the temperature increases, the level of the amount of the air that gets heated up is quite more, so it produces a strong upward rising wind. मतलब बहुत ज़्यादा अमाउंट में जो है विंड जो है हवा जो है गर्म होकर ऊपर की तरफ जाती है, और यही विंड अपने साथ क्या होते हैं, थोड़े थोड़े वाटर के ड्रॉपलेट्स भी कैरी करते हुए जाती है. दैट मीन्स बिकॉज द टेम्परेचर इज ह्यूमिड, सो लिटिल बिट ऑफ मॉइस्चर इज already present in the atmosphere. So with that hot rising air, the little bit of moisture also goes with that air upwards. Now these freeze and then they fall as droplets, and then they fall down again. The swift movement of falling water droplets along with the rising air creates lightning and sound. Now, as the droplets start falling, the swift movement, that means the movement is very, very quick. Swift means a quick movement of the falling droplets. जैसे ये पानी गिरता है जो है ऊपर से, और बहुत स्पीड में ये सारा काम होता है, मतलब बहुत ही तेज़ी से ये होता है, और उसके साथ जो होती है राइजिंग एयर, जो वार्म एयर इज राइजिंग अप एंड द ड्रॉपलेट्स आर फॉलिंग डाउन, वाटर ड्रॉपलेट्स आर फॉलिंग डाउन, दैट क्रिएट्स अ लाइटनिंग. उससे क्या होता है, एक लाइटनिंग जो है गर्म हवा से क्रिएट होता है लाइटनिंग, और एक साउंड निकलता है, एंड दैट इज व्हाई इट इज कॉल्ड एज द थंडर स्टॉर्म. और इससे जो है वो थंडर स्टॉर्म बनता है. गर्म हवा का ऊपर जाना, और जो गर्म हवा के साथ जो मॉइस्चर ऊपर क्या है वो ड्रॉपलेट के फॉर्म में नीचे आता है. जब दोनों एक साथ कंबाइन होते हैं, देन देयर इज अ लाइटनिंग एंड अ थंडर, एंड देयर इज अ लाउड साउंड, दैट इज योर थंडर. इसीलिए उसका नाम, इसको हम थंडर स्टॉर्म कहते हैं. You will read more about the lightning in the higher classes. So more detail of the lightning you will read in the next higher levels. Now, what precautions should be taken if there's a storm? Now, if a storm is accompanied by lightning, we must take the following precautions. मतलब हमको क्या क्या ध्यान रखना चाहिए अगर storm है और lightning और thunder है तो. Do not take shelter under an isolated tree. If you are in the forest, take shelter under a small tree or do not lie on the ground. मतलब कोई भी अगर आप बाहर जा रहे हैं तो कोई भी पेड़ के नीचे आप खड़े नहीं रहेंगे, और अगर बहुत बड़ा सा isolated मतलब single tree, और कोई बहुत बड़ा सा अगर आप जंगल में हैं तो कोई भी बड़े पेड़ के नीचे आप जो है शेल्टर नहीं लेंगे. कोई छोटे से पेड़ के नीचे शेल्टर ले, और कभी भी जमीन पर नहीं लेट जाएं. डू नॉट टेक शेल्टर अंडर एन अम्ब्रेला विथ अ मेटेलिक एंड. कोई भी अम्ब्रेला जिसका एक जो हैंडल होता है उसका जो है वो अगर मेटेलिक है तो वो मत लीजिए, क्योंकि वो इलेक्ट्रिसिटी को तुरंत अट्रैक्ट करेगा. डू नॉट सिट नियर अ विंडो. ओपन गैरेजेस, स्टोरेज शेड्स, मेटल शेड्स आर नॉट सेफ प्लेस टू टेक शेल्टर्स. Now, the places where you should not sit is near a window or an open garage or storage sheds, or metal sheds are not at all safe because they attract electricity too much. A car or a bus is a safe place to take shelter. If you are in a water, get out and go inside a building. अगर आप पानी में हैं तो पानी में से बाहर आकर किसी भी बिल्डिंग के अंदर जो है आप शेल्टर ले सकते हैं. Now we move on to the next topic.